Hello guys, welcome to another episode of a very favorite channel, the Student Insights podcast. Well, this is a third part in the IELTS series that I'm doing. If you've missed the first two episodes, the first one was for the overall general test structure for the IELTS test, and the second was particularly pertaining towards listening test module. This is a third video in which I'll be breaking down the reading module. So if you're somebody who is preparing for the IELTS reading test, especially the academic category, then this video is for you also. If you are planning to go overseas, IELTS is a prerequisite for you. So please make sure to watch the video till the end because I'll be discussing the different types of questions, the strategies that you can implement to get a higher band in the IELTS test. So let's begin the video. Okay, so let's begin this video. Before I begin this video, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, also press the bell notification icon so that you get notified as soon as my next video is uploaded. If you have missed the previous two videos, I would be linking them down in the description as well as up in the I button. So please make sure to go and watch the same before you watch this. Also, this is my third episode in the IELTS test series. And my plan is to make a 5-part series for IELTS in which I'm planning to cover each test module with the type of questions that are asked in the academic section, in the academic category, and some tips and strategies that you can use to increase your score and your band level in the overall IELTS test. So please make sure to like this video, subscribe to it, hit the bell notification icon also. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. The handles are the Student Insights Podcast. That's where you'll get additional information. And if you have any more doubts into this, you can mention that down in the comment section below, or you can ask me the same on social handles, and I will make it a point to reply to you. And if I do not have the right answer, I'll definitely guide it to a very authentic and a genuine, credible source online where you can find the answers for questions. Let's begin this. So as you know, this episode is all about the reading test. Now let's begin with an overall structure for what the reading test is all about. So it has 3 sections. Each section is given a time limit of 20 minutes. There is no separate time limit or a bell or buzzer that would kind of notify you for when the time for 20 minutes finishes, but it's in a total a 60-minute test in which roughly 20 minutes are allotted to three sections, and all becomes a 60-minute test. The next is you need to find answers from the given passages, so you do not need any background information or knowledge about any subject, any topic, or anything as such. It's the answer is there in the passage. You have to answer what the question says or asks about, and you could write directly on the answer sheets the answers, or you could first solve the entire test in the question paper, and then you can copy the answers into the answer sheet as you wish. If it's an offline exam, if it's an online test, you would be just clicking on the answers. So now let's move on to, I would like to start to tell you with some general tips, about in general, in macro, what are the general things or heads up that you need to keep in your mind while appearing for the reading test. Even while practicing, you could use them so that when you're giving the actual test, you're well prepared and aware of these things, and it becomes a muscle memory for you while solving these test examples. So the first one is limit the reading with respect to the questions. There's no need to go through the entire passage because your main objective in the reading test is to actually solve the questions given down below. So please make sure you first read the questions so that you know what information is required and what is needed to be derived from the passage. So you need only that much quantity. You do not need to read the entire passage to its entire length and end up wasting time, because please be aware, as I mentioned, it's a 60-minute test. You have 3 passages, so make sure you divide your time very smartly into these things. Second is read the questions first. This is something that goes in hand to hand with the first one, because what happens is once you read the questions, you know what exactly the information you require, and you will not kind of waste time reading the other unnecessary information that is provided in the passage. And this is actually a very smart move for you to save on your time. The third one is underline the keywords. This is very important. This is something I mentioned in the listening test as well, listening module as well, because once you start underlining the keywords, not only in the passage but also in the question, so once you start solving the question, underline the keyword in the question, that is the central information being asked for, and then you can correspond that keyword to the passage. And once you underline the keywords in the passage, that also helps you locate the information, where it's located, in what sequence it is located in the passage, so that it becomes easy for you to bounce back between the passage and the questions, and you don't end up every time locating within the entire sentence. You know this keyword in the question corresponds to the keyword at this space in the passage, so that's where the possible location of the information for the question is, or the answer for question is. So this will help in saving a very good amount of time in the reading test. The next bug is keep an eye on the time. That's really important. As I mentioned, you just have 60 minutes, a rough time division of 20 minutes per passage. So please make sure to keep a watch on the time, and while practicing itself, please make sure you practice within the time limit, because there's no use you will take your own sweet time while practicing and you're solving the entire test, reading test in say a 70 minutes time span. So that what happens is, when you practice with the actual time as of the test, you will develop reading speed. That is good for you. You will develop the solving. Your mind become more faster if you practice with the given constraints. It will make you less nervous. You will be more relaxed. You know everything what has to be done in that situation. The next one is, move on to the next question. If you're unable to find an answer or you're confused about any question, it might happen, say for the first section you're solving, you are very much confused in the third question itself. So please do not waste your time. Just move on to the next one. Make sure out of the 60 minutes, you end up solving the paper in 40 minutes, so that you get the 10 minutes extra time to recheck the entire answer sheet, to check whether the answers are in the correct sequence, the spellings, the grammar. There's many more things to check into this. So please make sure, if you are confused about a particular question, do not waste your time. Quickly move on to the next one. Time is money in this situation for you, because they do not give you even a single second extra. The next one is, understand the answer type expected. In this, you need to be very careful about the kind of question being asked and what is the kind of answer being expected from you. Also, please keep in mind for the word count, they give a heading that write no more for 2 words and complete the following sentences, or fill in the blanks, or fill in the spaces, fill in the tables with no more than 2 words. So please make sure to read the questions thoroughly and make yourself aware of what are the kind of questions, what are the kind of answer being expected. The next one is, check the spellings, because it might so happen that you end up writing the correct answer but you misspell it by some mistake. Please make sure it doesn't happen, because even if your answer is right, your spelling is wrong. Technically you're on mark for that and you will end up losing a score for that. The next is, increase your vocabulary, because specifically in the reading test, they paraphrase statements, they use synonyms, and this will not only actually help in the reading test, I've mentioned this in the listening test module as well. With a good amount of words in your vocabulary pool, you will be able to impress the examiner with it. May it be listening test, they use synonyms in the reading test, even for the speaking and writing as well. You can kind of express the same thing or the same information in different ways, which gives the examiner a very good idea about that the candidate has a really good vocabulary pool and they are well versed with the language. This will definitely help you increase your score in the IELTS test. The next one is, make sure your answers are grammatically correct. It might so happen that the answer was correct but used wrong tense, so you're marked wrong. So please make sure you read the question of what is being specifically asked in what format. This is actually related to the tip number 6, that is, understand the answer type expected. These two go hand in hand. So this is not that tough actually. Once you start practicing, you get a hang of the kind of questions and the kind of answers being expected, and given down the line, you'll become very familiar with the kind of things to be done. And the last is, and not the least, have a legible handwriting. Legible handwriting, I mean that for the third person, not for you, because for me, I can read without any question. I have no issues reading my own handwriting. But for a third person, they might be confused with the way I write certain letters. So please make sure while in the end of 10 minutes that every answer is very legible written. It's very clearly visible. There's no confusion between the way you construct your letters and the alphabets. So please make sure your handwriting is legible. There's no use, even if your answer is correct and if the examiner is not able to read it properly, you wouldn't get a mark for the same. So please make sure, this is an unsaid thing, but it happens many a times that you end up kind of looking at the bigger picture and keeping in mind the bigger things, you end up missing the smaller and the minor details. This is one of them. So let's move on to the very important thing, is the types of questions, because you have 3 sections, 3 passages. You won't have the same type repeating in all the passages. You have different kinds of questions which need different strategies and approaches to solve them, and they are of different intensities of tough or very easy. So let's start with the very first thing, that's the elephant in the room: match the headings or the titles. This is the one in which most people lose their scores, because it's kind of difficult, because it's all based on a judgment. There's no pinpoint answer like, what is the color of the fruit apple? It's not red, it's red. But that's not what the match the headings mean. It means you have to read through the entire passage, you have to look at the titles, and titles, say you have 5 passages, you would be given 7 or 8 titles to confuse you. And the more the options, the more confused you are. Usually it says the more the merrier, but in this case, the more the problem it creates. So in this, the strategies that you need to use is basically you need to read the headings first. As I mentioned, the general tips, make sure you first go through the headings, so that in your mind you have, okay, these are the 7 headings that are given in the questions, and now I could now go back to the passage and then look at what passage corresponds to what heading. So the second tip is, again, you have to limit your reading quantity and amount. You don't have to end up reading the entire 10 line passage. You could just read, for 80% or 90% of the cases, the heading actually, or basic central idea of the passage, is usually in the first and second sentence or the last sentence. That's the moral of the passage. So once this, like the very first approach that you do for this kind of a question, is you read the first, second line and the last concluding line of the passage, come back to the headlines, look at the headlines. You would, for 80% of the cases, you would find something matching in case of the passage to the headings. Mark that in front of the passage, cut it from the cut it through the options of the headings, so that you minimize the amount the options that you have to choose between the headings. The third one is understand the central idea of the passage. This is really important, because the heading actually gives a 1-word or a statement or a 3-word statement which gives you a gist about what the central idea of the passage is. So you need to know what that passage is actually talking about. So that is what the heading means. So if you just read, like as I mentioned, the first, second line, you will definitely in most cases get the central idea, but sometimes the central idea is located in the middle of the passage. So you have to actually read the entire passage in that situation. It depends from the kind of information, the different kind of passages, but you need to understand the central idea, otherwise you will end up matching the wrong headings to the different passages. The fourth one is spot and underline the keywords. Keyword underlining is very, very, very important, because even while reading the passages, once you underline the keywords, you know where a certain kind of information is placed. This will not only help with matching the headlines, there might be more questions, different type of questions for the same passages. So once you have underlined the keywords and mark their locations, you know what information is located there, and you can bang on spot it, and you don't have to read the entire passage again. You kind of limit your wastage of time. So please make sure, spot the keywords, underline them, highlight them as you wish, so that your eyes directly spot what information is located. And like the fifth one is, not sure about the heading, start the reverse process. As I mentioned, the first one, as soon as you start getting the headlines, cut it through. Just start cutting through the headlines that you believe, are confident about. Then you are limiting, you're kind of reducing the number of options that you have for the passage. And once you're confused, you will have with lesser options to look through for the passage you're looking for, and then you can make a very informed guess about it, which is the most closest heading or title that matches to the passage. So please make sure to underline the keywords in these kind of situations. And this is one of the questions I would definitely recommend you to recheck at the end in the 10 minutes that you're sparing yourself for cross-checking your answers, because it might happen that you, at the very first beginning, so this is the very first question that you hit upon, and then you are kind of not nervous, but in the back of your mind you have like, okay, I have the entire paper to solve, let's make this quick. But in that quick turnaround and you being a little on your toes, you might end up looking at a headline and thinking at the first glance, okay, this is the one. But once you revisit, you will be like, okay, no, this is not the correct one. Actually, the answer is the second option. So please make sure to cross-check all your answers, but specifically this one, because this is one of the type of questions that many students kind of lose their score upon. So let's move on to the second type of kind of question that comes in the reading test. This one, it is kind of reverse to the one that we already talked about. In this, you actually have to match the paragraph with the heading. So in this situation, the strategy becomes a little reverse than the one you adopted in the very first type of question. In the first one, you actually read the titles first, then you moved on to the passage. In this situation, you have to actually look at the passage first and then match it to the title. So the overall strategy remains similar. In order to limit your reading time, you need to first look at the title and then look at the passage and understand again the question title, look for the passage that matches. The strategy is similar to one we talked in the first one. The next one is the true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. This is also the one in which most people lose their score, because it is kind of confusing, because what exactly is true, what exactly is false, what exactly is not given. If that's not clear in your mind, you would actually end up giving wrong answers and in the end losing the score on the reading test. So let's look, because what basically this is about is, in this question you have to actually look at the information that is being presented is opposite to what the writer is saying, or is it not actually present in the very given passage. So the kind of strategies you need to involve in this is, firstly you have to understand, observe the different kind of vocabularies that are being used in the statement, that is the question itself. You have to look at what exactly it is the meaning of the statement is, and you do not have to have a pre-assumption about what the statement means, because if you have a pre-assumed meaning of the statement and the meaning means differently, you will end up giving, say, a false instead of a true, or a not given instead of a false. So please make sure to understand the different kind of vocabulary. Look at the meaning of the statement. This is very important, because it might so happen that they might paraphrase the question than the kind of information given in the passage. So please make sure to understand the meaning of the statement first, so that the meaning is similar in both situations, so that you can have a very informed and a confident decision about whether it is true, false, or not given. Look out for the slight changes in the use of words. Again, if you have very good vocabulary, you could actually very quickly find out about the kind of synonym being used over here, because they might end up using another word for the one that's given in the passage and use a different one in the question. So please again be very aware of the kind of word being used, and then create the opposite statement to check if the information is false, because false basically means that the statement is actually not true. So a very good tip in this situation is, you should actually look at the opposite, or create an opposite statement. Like if you have a statement and you create an opposite one, and that opposite statement opposite to the information being given in the passage, then that is a sure shot no, or a false. So please make sure, so as the fifth one says, for the not given, check the matching or the opposing information to distinguish it from being a false statement. Sixth is match the information rather than the keywords. Again, they would kind of try to confuse you by using the same keywords, but then the central idea or the information is totally different from the one present in the passage. So please make sure to match the central idea or the main information rather than matching the keywords. And check for paraphrasing. As I mentioned, it's very easy to confuse somebody by just paraphrasing the statement, because by paraphrasing you actually are keeping the central idea similar, but you're running around the corner and coming to the point instead of a straight question. So please make sure to check whether the statement has been paraphrased or not. And the last one is false, is the opposite information and not a mismatch. Because what happens is, usually we think false means that the information given in the passage and that asked in the question might be different, but so it becomes a false, but that can be not given as well. So there's a very thin line distinguishing between false and not given. So make sure to understand. So keep in your mind that false is actually the opposite of the information given. The information is not true. So please make sure it's a no or a false and not a not given. And the fourth one is you have to fill in the blanks or fill in the gaps with the specific information. You have to fill in the spaces in this. So the strategies that you can use for the same is spot the information location, and this becomes easier once you have actually underlined the keywords. So you know what information is present at what place in the passage, so you can correlate with the information in the passage and that of the question. Because also here you have to keep the word count and limit. You have to keep in mind the word count limit. That's the fourth one, but I'm kind of bringing it in the sequence up. And the second is the questions are usually in the same order as the sequence order in the passage. This is true for most of the questions in the reading test, because it's very rare that there's a jump in the sequence of the question and the given information in the passage. But in this kind of fill in the gaps, the information correlates to the sequence in the passage. So you need to be kind of relaxed in this situation, that once you start from the top, the first question corresponds to the very beginning of the passage, the second a little lower, the third, the last one is usually the information in the last section of the passage. And third is very important, you need to identify the correct word type grammatically, that is whether they're looking for a noun, whether they're looking for a verb, whether they're looking for an adjective. So please make sure you understand the kind of question and the kind of answer being expected. This you usually get a hang of it while practicing, and as you practice more by analyzing the answers, you will definitely be becoming very much confident about the kind of question or the kind of word being asked. The next one is MCQs, or the multiple choice questions. Again, in this you have to kind of choose the correct answer. It's usually an A, B, C or D. In this you have to look at the questions again are in the same order as out of the passage. This is again repeating myself, that the question sequence is similar to the information sequence in the passage, so you can easily correlate between the two, match the meaning than the keyword. This is very important. You might look at the keyword and get confused, or the keyword might actually appear 2 or 3 times in the passage itself, but what they are looking, or what you're exactly looking here for, is the meaning, the central idea about the information and the question. So please make sure to match the meaning than the keyword. Look for the wordplay again to confuse you or to mislead the information. They could use synonyms, they could paraphrase the answers. That's my very next strategy, or the heads up for you, that they could actually use they could paraphrase it, they could use a different synonym for the same word, and that might end up confusing you. So please be very smart and be aware of the same. The sixth one is complete the statements from the options, in which you have to match the statements with the correct option in accordance to the given information in the passage. So again, paraphrase the information, kind of match the statement. So say X was doing Y because the option is C. So you have to look in the passage, what is this exact statement first in the passage, understand the statement, then what does the statement mean, what does it say, then look at the options and then match. And once you match it, again read the entire statement in the entirety, and then understand the meaning, whether after matching the entire statement and once you complete the statement, is the meaning similar to one that's given in the passage. Because it might be that the important keywords are matching, you think, okay, this is the answer, but once you read the statement, you come to know, okay, the meaning is different. That means you have not matched the correct statement, this is the correct answer. So please make sure that you paraphrase the question, and the question be paraphrased, that you match the meaning, not the keywords. Second is the questions again are the same sequence. Check for the grammar of the complete sentence and its information. This is again very important, because keyword matching doesn't always guarantee a correct answer. You need to match the central idea or the meaning behind it. This is very much important. Next comes the flow charts. You might be given flow charts about a particular sequence at a particular place, or some diagram that you need to fill. That is the next kind of question, but in the flow chart again. In this, check the word limit. This is very important, because in the passage or the diagram in the flow chart, in the passage, it says a kind of a definition of something, and then or a process which has a 2-word limit in that, and you don't have to add something else. So please make sure if you start answering it, check the word limit. Second is, again, the question sequence is similar. Actually I'm repeating this again and again, but this is true for most of the kind of questions that appear in the reading test, that the sequence of the information given and the questions are asked are the similar sequence. The next one is diagram completion. This again is similar to the flow chart, that again you have to check the word limit. You need to spot the keywords in this, because what happens in diagram is they're looking for a very particular information that they need you to fill in the blanks for the diagram, but that information is hidden in the passage in the form of statements or sentences. So once you highlight that keywords, okay, this statement means this is located here in the diagram. So you need to actually kind of derive that word from the sentence and note and kind of answer it in the or fill in the blank in the diagram question. Again, in this, check the word type: noun, adjective, verb. What is the correct word that they're looking for? So that's it from my end for this video. Hope you liked this video about the reading test. If you find some value in this or little value, please make sure to like the video. It really brings positive energy towards me and it motivates me to produce more good content for you. Also, do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so that you get notified as soon as my next video is uploaded. Please do not forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook as well. The ID is Student Insights Podcast. That's where you will find more additional information, more additional links that it can be useful for you as an international student. That's where you can get in touch with me. If you have any more additional questions, you can also definitely ask me down in the comment section below. I'll make sure to answer it as soon as possible. And if I believe I'm not the right person to answer that question, I would definitely guide you to a more authentic and a genuine link that will be more resourceful to you and will guide you in the proper direction. So please make sure also to watch the previous 2 episodes that I've made for the IELTS series. There are also student interviews that I've done for various countries like US, Canada, there's one for New Zealand, UK, so please make sure to watch those videos as well. Also, if you feel this video will help anybody from your family or friends who is kind of thinking of appearing for IELTS or is looking forward to studying abroad or overseas, please make sure to share this channel or these videos with those people so that they can get benefited, because that's the very motive which I've started this channel, to help make a prospective international students' journey more pleasant, more aware, more kind of informed and a smoother one. So please make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification icon, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Well, that's it for me for this video, but in the next coming videos I'll be covering the writing task as well as the speaking task. So please make sure to hit the bell notification. So that's it from my end for this side. Till then, stay safe, stay sound, stay happy. See you in the next video. Bye bye.